Good morning friends, welcome to The Point. In this video we will discuss about a scheme for corporate debt restructuring that was launched in 2016 by RBI. So before starting off with the video, I would like to brief you about the economic situation that was prevailing in the financial year 2015-16. So I would like to bring your attention to the quarter 4 of financial year 2015-16, that is from January to March 2016. That was the time when the non-performing assets of the public sector banks were all-time high, and RBI was trying in or putting in every effort to clean off the balance sheets of the public sector banks, and the economy was going through the twin balance sheet problem, where at one side the asset side of the balance sheet of the public sector banks was showing huge amount of non-performing assets, and at the same time the balance sheets of the corporates were showing huge amount of loans that was unserviceable by them, which means that they were not able to repay the loan amount or also the interest on it. So there was a drive that was carried out by RBI, that cleaning of the balance sheet of banks, which means that to remove or to lessen the amount of non-performing assets. Now, in order to reduce the amount of loans that the banks have extended, RBI resorted to number of schemes, of various schemes like 525 corporate or strategic debt restructuring, and the one which we will be studying in the current video, that is S4A scheme, the full form of which is Scheme for Sustainable Structuring of Stressed Assets. So we'll quickly go through the slide first and then I'll explain you. The scheme was launched by RBI in 2016 to address the issue of rising debt of corporate sector and to strengthen the lender's ability to deal with the stressed assets. Before that, what was happening was that public sector banks or any other bank which was extending loan was not able to do much about the loan that has been defaulted by the corporate sector. But under this scheme, RBI gave power or the ability to the lender to deal with the stress asset, how we will discuss later. Also called S4A scheme, under this the debt of the company is bifurcated into two parts, namely sustainable and the unsustainable debt. So let's suppose if the company has taken a loan for 1000 crores, so the lender has the authority to bifurcate this debt into sustainable and unsustainable. Suppose there's a sustainable debt and unsustainable debt. So sustainable debt is the one on which regular payment of the installment is done, and the unsustainable part is where there was no servicing of debt, that is no repayment of interest or the principal amount was there. So this scheme provided the lender ability to bifurcate the loan into two parts. The sustainable debt of a company should not be less than 50% of the existing debt, and the unsustainable debt can be converted into optionally convertible debentures or say equity. So in order to avail the benefit of scheme, the sustainable part of the debt should be not less than 50%. So if the loan amount is 1000 crore, so the amount that comes under sustainable debt should not be nowhere less than 500 crores. Only then only then the corporate is eligible to financial restructuring under this scheme. So I hope by now you have a brief idea about what the scheme is all about. It is for the financial debt restructuring of the corporates where the loan amount is more than 500 crores and where the loan can be converted into equity at the later stage. So I've just added a clipping for your reference. This clipping is from 2016, which shows that stressed assets, stressed advances stand at 12.3% in March 2016 as compared to 11.5% in 2016, and a lot of stressed assets is mostly confined to the infrastructure, iron, steel, engineering and power sectors. And what was the scheme that was launched by RBI during that time? So as I told you before also, 525 strategic debt restructuring, that is SDR, and the S4A scheme which we are studying right now. On to the next slide, which talks about the aim of the scheme. What was the aim actually behind launching the scheme. So the first one was the financial restructuring. So it was the main aim for launching this scheme. It aimed at restructuring the large loan with an aim to convert some part of the loan to the equity. Now if you see, earlier if 1000 crore rupees 1000 crore loan is given to a corporate, and altogether it is stalled and nothing is done to revive it. Now with the help of this scheme, it was decided that at least some part of it will be revived, so that the cash flows which are stuck from so long can be used again to create credit in the economy. And the next the next point is restoring the flow of credit to the crucial sectors, as the huge chunk of money was stalled in the large projects. As I told you that where earlier the whole amount was stuck, now the aim was to revive maximum amount of money so that it can be used again to create the credit cycle or to give loans to the other sectors of the economy for their development. Next slide, last slide, talks about the features of the scheme. So the first point is, under the scheme, an account is considered eligible for restructuring if the total loans in the account by all the institutional lender exceeds rupees 500 crore. So the minimum amount should be 500 crore. It is not compulsory that it should be extended by one particular bank. Let's suppose there are 3 banks pool coming in together and extending a loan of 500 crore. So that would also be considered as eligible to be brought under the scheme. Also, it is not necessary that it should be Indian currency loan. It could be a loan in foreign currency as well, but the total amount should nowhere be less than rupees 500 crore. Next point is that an independent agency is hired by lending bank for evaluating sustainable debt. As I told you, this scheme provided ability to the lender to bifurcate the loan into 2 parts, that is the sustainable and the unsustainable part. For this, the lender is allowed to hire an independent agency who would evaluate the debt on their part. Third point, the project should have started its commercial operation. So this is one of the most important point, that the project for which the money has been taken should have started its commercial operation. That is, the work should not be in progress and the project must be under its commercial run, and there should be some cash flow that the project is generating, and then only the project can be bifurcated into sustainable and unsustainable. Fourth point is, the project allow banks to take equity participation in the stress project. Yes, as I told you, since the project was bifurcated into sustainable and the unsustainable one, now this unsustainable part can be converted into equity, which means that for whatever amount the loan is under as unsustainable one, the bank can become the owner of the project by this amount, which is mentioned, that the banks were allowed to take the equity participation. They will become the owner of the project by the virtue of equity owners and by the amount that they have lent, and that which comes under the unsustainable part. The fifth and the last point is, one of the main feature of this scheme is to test of sustainability, as it allows the evaluation of the level of sustainable debt for a stressed borrower. So for the lender, this scheme provides an added advantage that they have the liberty to evaluate the project whether it is sustainable for them to consider it under the scheme or not. Under this scheme, the loans were divided into 2 parts, as I told you, and it gives a clear picture to them as to how much part of the loan is unsustainable and how much is still sustainable and will fetch them revenues or the interest payments in the future. So this is one of the striking feature of the scheme, that it provided the liberty to the lenders that they can take an action over it by hiring an independent agency. So friends, I have covered almost all the major points or aspects related to this scheme. Also, you should be clear about the financial scenario that was prevalent during the financial year 2015 and 16. That also I have explained you. So, and the schemes that were launched, and one of this was the S4A scheme. So friends, this is all for the today's video. Stay at home. Please keep revising the key features of this scheme, because this is something you have to mug up and there is no way that you can logically remember it. So for that, revision is the key. So please keep revising again and again. Thank you so much for your patience listening.